I'm joined today by LA-based alumni Elliott Kotek, CEO and founder of media production company The Nation of Artists, to take questions from Monash alumni. Elliott, thank you for joining us.
Of course, my pleasure, always.
So Elliott, just give us a little bit of the current state of play of what LA is like at the moment and what it's been like over the last few months.
Yeah, I would say even just this entire year, starting with Kobe Bryant's passing, has set this year up to hashtag 2020 WTF. You know, it's like, it's just been the gift that's kept on giving in all the worst ways. When I started the year, I was in Australia and had obviously the bushfires there. And we're in the middle of those same wildfires again now here, having had over 1 million acres, actually 4 million acres burned this season, but there's a single fire that's already burned more than 1 million. So we've had, bad air quality and people really doing it tough in certain areas of the city. But we've got the Lakers, who are one game away from winning the crazy championship without fans at the moment, which will give a bit of hope back. But between COVID and Black Lives Matter and the affordable housing crisis and the escalating homelessness, it's been a really interesting year in LA. And I hope it definitely spurs people to action.
And so, Elliott, in your work, what have been some of the key learnings in terms of how you've had to pivot to the next normal?
Yeah, it's a good question. For us, we thought that everything was just going to go belly up when COVID first hit. We had a big project that was meant to take us from April through to mid-June, but that required our interaction with events that had up to about 40,000 kids at them. And so obviously that was not going to fly. And so it really became a case of putting our minds to work. We've had some really good projects in the past where we've created our own technology and then filmed that story. And so we had some really good interactions with UCLA's biodesign program, some people from SpaceX, and we actually created a prototype low-cost ventilator that is still before the FDA for emergency use approval right now, which will be one of 4 emergency use ventilators that have been created during COVID. So that was one thing that we did from a nonprofit perspective. But from a business perspective, we really had to look at digital adoption. How could we use tools like Zoom to command local crews in different places around the world? We have a project that's airing at the moment for CNBC that's being sponsored by McKinsey and Company. And we've filmed in 14 different cities in 4 countries, Canada, France, the UK, the US, with C-suite, like the CEO of IBM and the CSO of Walmart and the CHRO of Unilever. And we've not traveled. I've done it all from the shed and using crews that I've known. And it's kind of weird to be waking up at 2 a.m. and heading out to the shed with a cup of coffee to direct some shoot that's going on overseas, and then have all these drives fly in from all over the world. So digital adoption has been huge, as it has been for all sorts of businesses, right? Rapid ideation, flexibility, being sensitive to not just our clients' needs, but the people in the places where we're shooting, because some of them are okay with someone coming in and setting something up and leaving. Others just want a kit to arrive at their doorstep that's been fully sanitized, and they'll take it from there. So it's really been a case of being innovative and sensitive.
Got it. And you mentioned there some collaborations with the not-for-profit sector and also some more commercial type collaborations with the likes of McKinsey and Company. So you talk us through why you think such partnerships are significant in advancing societal interests?
Yeah, I mean, everything we do as a company has to have social impact. That's our lens, that's our specialty. And I really don't think you can do it any other way. If you are a nonprofit, it's great. You can be very effective in the programs that you run. But to sustain that nonprofit requires you to fundraise every year. So with corporate interests and corporate social responsibility, brands have had this kind of pool of money off to the side that they've been, it kind of undergoes a new revolution every few years. They've got eco initiatives, to CSR initiatives, to innovation initiatives, to purpose initiatives. but really they can't be held to be as authentic a player in the space as the nonprofits that have been working on the ground. And certainly from a sustainability standpoint, what they're doing might be perceived to be a stunt unless they engage in it on a sustainable level or guarantee it's running for a certain amount of years that prove that it wasn't just a one and done. And so for me, having projects that kind of sit on these nexus points of CSR and purpose and marketing and brands really is the basis for true impact, because brands, ultimately, they're the ones who have the power for amplification beyond the usual audiences. And so a documentary can only go so far. There's only a certain community that will watch those. But online content through to advertising, if you can parcel things up into different bites, then you can really affect a lot more audiences and reach people that you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, so can you talk through in a little bit more detail, what are some of the sort of central features in making those collaborations between not-for-profits or, those stakeholders in the commercial sector? What makes those relationships really work?
Yeah, I think it comes, we have a lot of different equations and principles at the Nation of Artists. We say ideas plus empathy equals impact, because nothing by itself can get you across the line in the way that you want. We did a project with Aflac, which is an insurance company here in the US and in Japan, who's actually, I've got this little guy up here. He's a duck, right? But he's a social robot duck for kids going through chemotherapy.
Oh, wow.
And he's pretty unbelievable from a technology perspective and has patents around his technology. But the reason it was successful was because Aflac as an insurance company doesn't really target kids, but has had a philanthropic interest in pediatric oncology and childhood cancer for 20 plus years. It's been what they've given philanthropic dollars to. So they already had integrity in the space. It wasn't something they were coming into and saying, what can we do that would be a really PR or buzzworthy initiative? They were saying, what can we do to reach consumer level awareness and the individual person with a big initiative that is rooted in what we already do philanthropically. And then what they did is they put the kids who are going through these treatments at the center of that design process. So even though it's a duck, the kids wanted it to purr, and so it purrs. Right? The siblings were engaged, the parents were engaged, the oncologist, the child life psychologist, all the stakeholders were included in the project. And I think that that's what you need, is that you need to be listening to your stakeholders. You need to have integrity in the space or establish it pretty quickly. And what I mean by that is, even if you're new to a space, you can establish integrity by being a really good partner, a really good listener, and also devoting enough capital to the project that you can be taken seriously. So a lot of people do side dollars and little bits of pockets of money to things that they think might be cool. But if you really want to be taken seriously in a space, making it a core part of your marketing or a core foundational aspect of your company can really make the difference in a world where we're very quick to call bullshit on people.
Elliott, thank you so much for taking the time today and to participate in Connections for Change, and for sharing some of your insights, particularly some of those cross-disciplinary insights that can be applied to our alumni across all walks of life. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure chatting to you from the shed.